Hey guys, we're back with another interview, and this time we have Tara. And Tara is the owner of the ketogenic baking company. And the way I found out about her is I saw this incredible, I think it was snickerdoodle granola, and I wanted to check it out. So I ordered it, and I was like blown away. So I had to contact her and see how she made this. So that's how we met. But so you also had some health issues that I want to actually kind of just use as an example of how a good evaluation would go, and some of the pitfalls that a lot of times the doctors, when they evaluate people, they just basically list your symptoms and they connect with what remedy that you're supposed to take. And you gave me a little history, so I can see what's happening. Like, you go to these doctors and they don't really dig deep to find the cause, right? So can you tell me, like, I have some questions. Number one, was there a point in your life that you were actually fine and you didn't have any health problems?
I want to say no. Probably before age 13, I was maybe decently healthy. I don't think I had any notable symptoms that were consistent.
Well, see, this is always important because there's always a time that things are going along and then they get worse. So 13 would be interesting. And I think doctors don't ask this enough because there's always something that was triggered. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when you're 13 is that you probably are going through puberty, your menstrual cycle. Maybe you can tell me, is that when your first period was around, or was it earlier? Or?
First period was 12, and it was pretty normal, but 13 was when I actually began I developed an eating disorder.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to know about, because you gave me your history, but I want to know, is there anything behind the scenes? So an eating disorder, and did you notice that your cycle was off first, or you just developed an eating disorder right away and then all of a sudden things started to go out of whack?
My cycle was actually pretty normal from what I understood to be normal at the time. I think looking back, I can see maybe there was already some estrogen dominance going on, just based on the cramping as well as the flow. So once the eating disorder happened was when it disappeared for 2 years.
Right. Okay. So that was the first thing, that chain reaction. And then as far as eating disorder, how long did that last? How long did that problem last?
Anorexia continued through high school until I was about 18. And then I developed bulimia. So it wasn't until a few years ago that stopped.
So from age 13 to 18, you basically went on a very low calorie type thing? Okay.
Yes.
Got it. So we got all sorts of nutritional deficiencies that can happen. And then with bulimia, how long did that last?
Let's see, I'd say six years.
Okay, 6 years. And did you also go on low calories as well? And
Oh yeah.
okay. So that would explain. So we have quite a few years of that body stress. And what's your age now?
28.
28? Okay. So, so just to kind of summarize some of the symptoms that you told me, you had Hep C, right? Okay, and then you had a blood sugar issue. I think you said your blood sugars were 177, right?
Yeah.
So that's some serious blood sugar issues. You got in Metformin, you're still on Metformin, right?
Yeah. Because I was diagnosed with PCOS shortly after that.
Got it. For those people that never heard of that, that's Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. It's a condition where the ovaries are developing little follicles, a little cyst, and then there's higher levels of androgen, going on. And there's facial hair, things like that. I don't know, did you get those symptoms as well?
I actually had no symptoms. The loss of period, that's one of the reasons why I'm considered to be mysterious, my case.
Okay. So just a little side point on that. When you went to the doctors, obviously you did your research probably. What did the doctors tell you that's causing PCOS?
I was not told what was causing it actually, and when I requested metformin because I'd done my own research, I was told no, and that birth control was the answer.
Wow, interesting. And when you researched online, I would imagine, did you find any causation to that? Like what caused that?
The causation behind the misinformation?
No, PCOS.
Oh, absolutely. And I had already begun a ketogenic diet. So I had already started to see my blood sugar fall. It was when I found the blood sugar, the 177, that shot me into researching and figuring out the insulin issue.
Was that a fasting sugar? 177?
It was 6 hours after eating half of a Quest bar. So
Wow.
low carb, you know?
Yeah. So basically what causes PCOS is insulin resistance. It's high insulin. That's really what causes it. So, because high levels of insulin converts to androgens. So that's that connection. At the time too, you had other symptoms like rage and depression and all that too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you went on intermittent fasting and that cleared right up. So we know it was blood sugar. I did a video on this too, where you have all these mood issues, mood disorders, that people are taking psych drugs when in fact it's just a blood sugar issue. Also, you had the hair loss, constipation, weight gain, fatigue, right? And
Yes.
you had those.
That was prior to intermittent fasting.
Okay, got it. Now, also they found your T3 was slightly lower, right?
Yeah. So I am on replacement hormone.
Got it. And so you're on Armour. That's a natural thyroid hormone, which is way better than Synthroid. And then you also had IBS, right?
Yes. Still would say that I do. There was some suspected SIBO. You want to mention? And so I wasn't actually tested for it because I wasn't interested in having all that sugar. But my symptoms matched up, and I did end up doing an herbal protocol, and I haven't had symptoms of SIBO since then.
Okay. And then also, your insulin, you did the intermittent fasting and the depression just vanished. And then in 3 months, you lost 30 pounds, which is quite amazing.
It fell off. I didn't have to make any effort.
Wow. But currently, you have high levels of progesterone, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then chronic high levels of cortisol.
Yes, and my estradiol is very low.
So now we have low estradiol, okay? And I'm going to come back to that in a second. But you're still on metformin, which is for prediabetes or insulin resistance, and also Armour for thyroid. Let's see. Also, you had digestive issues, or do you currently have digestive issues?
Well, actually, it was your apple cider vinegar video that taught me well a few years back, and that started me realizing that it was a low acid issue. So since then, I've done some things like slow down how I eat or when I eat, and chewing more, but still taking the apple cider vinegar. I also supplement with HCl. And then I had a test that showed my pancreatic output was just low in general. So I began taking digestive enzymes.
Okay.
So as long as I have those things, my digestion is okay.
Got it. Okay. Do you get any pain or tightness right here in your upper back, like upper right shoulder? Not
consistently, but occasionally. And I have I've been told my gallbladder is under outputting as well.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because the gallbladder can for pain.
Watch your videos.
Saw a lot of those videos. It goes right to the right shoulder, and sometimes even cause headaches. I mean, people that have even pain in their hand or the right side, it's all gallbladder. Okay, so we have that. And terrible insomnia, right?
That's my biggest symptom, I think, other than the amenorrhea.
Okay, yeah, no cycle. So, and then you also, melatonin doesn't help. In fact, your melatonin is high. Okay,
Right.
so you're basically, melatonin doesn't help. All right. Okay. So now, so basically when I evaluate this, I'm looking at all this data and I'm trying to putting in little buckets to see where everything falls into. And the way that you solve problems like this is you solve a couple little pieces of it, and then you start solving a little more of it and a little more of it, and then it all falls into place, because you're probably sitting in this whole complexity where, you know, you get this conflicting data, this unknown information, and you're trying to someone says, maybe try this, and you try that. So it's one big ball of confusion.
And sorry to interrupt. An example of that being that PCOS, you're suggested to exercise more and eat less, while hypothalamic amenorrhea, it's the opposite.
Right. Right.
And I have symptoms of both.
Right. And so there's things that we don't know, and there's things that I think we do know. We know there's a problem with insulin. We know that your endocrine system is off. We know we had years of stress on the digestive system and the endocrine system and nutritional deficiencies. We know that the stomach acid thing really helped you. So let's just take the thyroid. There's two main big reasons why the thyroid can mess up. One is that high estrogen, which can't be your case right now because it's low. So the other reason would be liver and gallbladder, because you can't convert T4 to T3. So have you ever taken bile salts?
So I was taking oxygen, and then I had a food sensitivity test, the mediator release test, which showed that I was sensitive to beef. So I was worried that I shouldn't be taking bovine anything. That's what my nutritionist had said.
Okay.
So I have a lot of food sensitivities. That's another thing.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, that's definitely related to adrenal gland. I'm going to come back to that. But as far as the bile goes, if you get bile salts, I have a gallbladder formula which has bile salts, and you can get it straight, just bile salts. It's purified bile salts. It's not any beef in there, so there's no protein. Right. Okay. So you're not going to have an allergy.
Got it.
And let me explain the importance of the bile salt. If you can't produce enough bile, you can't pull it. First of all, you're not going to convert your thyroid hormones. So then you have to take thyroid hormones. And long-term taking thyroid hormones cause your thyroid to go to sleep. So now, and then you become more dependent on the thyroid over time. So I always look at thyroid hormones as a very temporary solution until you can figure it out. That bile salt too also is controlled by your stomach acid. So you're doing the right thing by taking betaine hydrochloride and apple cider vinegar, because that's going to help release more bile. But when women have a problem with bulimia or anorexia, it really destroys the gallbladder. It just hammers that gallbladder constantly. And so they usually have gallbladder symptoms down the road. So they're going to need to kind of support that, because most of the bile is recycled in the body. And so when you lose it, you have to almost put some back so you have enough so you can recycle it. Because your body can just not make anymore. But the bile salts will help you start absorbing all the key fat-soluble vitamins that you need, vitamin A, D, E, and K, to start supporting these other glands and organs, which is really important. Especially a lot of the hormones that you're having a problem with are sex hormones, like cortisol, estrogen, progesterone. They're all steroidal hormones. So if you can't feed them the essential fatty acids that you need from the fat, because it's not really absorbed, it's going to have a hard time thriving. So that would be one thing. So by adding the bile salts, you'll kill two birds with one stone. You'll convert T4 to T3, and you'll start nourishing the body a lot better. Now, the other thing is that your sleep. If someone's not sleeping, they're going to have a hard time healing, especially the adrenal glands. So, because there's two glands that make progesterone, the ovary and the adrenal gland. And I think your high progesterone is coming from the adrenal function, because you have high cortisol. and that's adrenal. So your adrenals are just overworking because your body's probably still to some degree in a flight or fight mode. It can't just turn off. So do you find when you sleep, when you try to sleep, your body just won't relax fully? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a flight or fight. And that's usually comes from an overactive adrenal gland. So I think the most important thing for you right now would be to get your adrenal glands to turn off.
Okay.
Because they've been stimulated for so long. And now the question is, how do you turn them off, right?
Right.
Honestly, I think you'll have more success with more of a physical technique than a nutritional technique. And there's, I don't know if you saw the videos on the acupressure techniques that I have online. Did you ever see those?
No.
Oh, wow. Start researching the ones on the adrenal with acupressure. There's a technique I developed and I used to use in my office for years on tens of thousands of people, basically doing acupressure, which is a version of a combination of acupuncture without the needles and massage, but we used it on the endocrine system.
Wow.
Like no one even connects that you can do that. Your adrenals are on top of the kidney, and they have acupressure points that are kind of nerve connections from the outside to the inside. So I basically show people how to manipulate these communication lines to just turn off the adrenals. And the biggest effect that people would feel after I was done is they would go, "Can I just take a nap?" It just caused them to go to sleep. They're just so relaxed. They go home and they sleep like a baby. Okay. Of course, babies are up all night crying, so that sometimes can be a problem. No, I'm just kidding. And so here I am. I developed this technique, working on all these people, and they're sleeping. They come in with stress. They feel better, and it's a way to clean up the old stress. And there's not just one point. There's like 5 different areas of the body that you work on. And I even show people in my new book. It's all in the book. I put a chapter on pulling out stress, and I show people the techniques. But the problem was that unless I had an associate, I couldn't work on myself as much as I would like. So that's when I developed an acupressure tool that mimics my own hand, so I can then work on myself.
Okay.
And that's that massage tool that I have. It's a tripod, and you can lay back and hit the points on the neck. You can use it on the adrenal. So I think that would be a really simple, inexpensive way of working on your adrenals. And you'd work on that before bed each night for a half hour. And I will be in a state of shock if you don't fall right to sleep and sleep through the whole night. I will be like very surprised if you don't feel that, because it's so effective, especially if you've never had it done.
Yeah.
And if people want to know, like, what is that? How would I know if I need that? If you press on your abdomen and it's really tense, especially right below the rib cage, that's usually the adrenals are just like in a state of like flight or fight. So they're tense. So when you work on those points, you'll kind of melt that whole area, and you're just like, it'll feel really relaxing.
Wow.
Okay. So that's one thing I would do for the sleep. So then you could start to heal the adrenals and turn off some of these high level of hormones. Because what's interesting about the adrenal is it only has an on switch. It doesn't have an off switch. Did you know that? It kind of like over your life, you go through stress, and then it accumulates like a bucket, and you're just full of stress, and then it just stays there. So, what's that?
I feel it.
Yeah. And then the other, as far as the nutrient thing goes, I'm curious, do you do nutritional yeast?
I don't. That's one of my sensitivities, is yeast. I know, it's so sad. I know.
Okay, so then what you might have to try, some type of other B vitamin, like some of the fat-soluble B1s that they have. Benfotiamine would be one. You could get that source. Have you ever tried that? It's called benfotiamine. You can look it up. And the reason for that is that that B1 is really good for the adrenals, and it'll help a lot, especially the stress and internal tension.
Okay.
So
What priority would you put healing? Like, I guess I'm assuming I have a leaky gut because of the sensitivities. So I worry that I'm wasting nutrients when I take supplements. I kind of stopped for a while now because I found out that I had a leaky gut.
Yeah.
So what do you think, is there a recommendation you have for that?
What probably caused leaky gut was the high level of insulin that you had, because it destroys the epithelial level layer of the inside of the gut as well as the arteries. And so now it could be leaking, you develop allergies. So one thing to help you heal that, well, there's two things. One is vitamin C from sauerkraut. Sauerkraut has, especially from the health food store or the farmer's market, it has like 700 milligrams compared to everything else is only like under 100. So that would be a really good vitamin C source for you to start healing that.
Okay.
The other thing that would help heal the internal lining of your skin and your colon, which would be the wheatgrass juice powder, because of the chlorophyll and it's good for any type of ulcers, cancer of the mouth, open wounds, itis, inflammation of the stomach or the colon.
Okay. Great.
That's what I would do. And you probably are eliminating all the other things that will aggravate it, like the wheat and grains. The other thing that you are doing now, I think, too, is you're doing intermittent fasting, right?
It's been 2 years now. I've done it every day.
Okay, good. And how many times do you eat?
Once. Well, I would say it's once split up over the course of 4 hours. So I eat slowly over 4 hours.
Okay. So I think that is going to also help heal your gut over time as well, because you're taking the stress off your digestive system and you're letting it heal.
Yes.
So I think the combination of the acupressure, which will help the adrenal, which will then create a cascade of effect and really start calming everything down, adding some purified bile salts will start converting the thyroid, and then eventually, hopefully you can come off the thyroid medication. And then the other thing that I'm curious about, you're still on metformin, right?
Yes.
Now, what happens if you come off metformin?
I don't know. I haven't come off of it. I guess I'm worried that I guess I'm just worried I'll be kicked out of ketosis, that I'm eating too many vegetables or I'm too insulin resistant or what have you.
Yeah. I think probably the cortisol and the sleep is keeping you from being in a full-blown, healing of your insulin. I think that's kind of the last thing that's keeping you from fully getting there. So then you have the confidence to come off the metformin, because I think eventually you will be able to, because you're doing intermittent fasting. So that's the biggest factor. You're not consuming sugars right now. So I think, I know that you had it for a long time and it's chronic, but I think it would be nice to have you off that completely eventually.
Yeah.
And so
that would be great.
Yeah. So number 1, the bile salts. Number 2, wheatgrass. Number 3, acupressure to the adrenals. Watch the videos on that. I have just a ton of videos on that. And then also sauerkraut for the vitamin C for the gut. So that will handle the thyroid, the sleep, the adrenal, and then your progesterone will start coming down.
Okay, great.
Because that's coming from, so I'm just kind of connecting the dots, and it does make sense. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, and just keep taking the support for the stomach, because, just years of losing your stomach acids, to heal that, it does take some years. You have to just stick with it over time.
Okay.
Good. So does that make sense to you? Does that, any questions on those recommendations?
No, actually, it's amazing to finally have someone to really take all of the pieces and put them together, because I've seen so many practitioners, as I've emailed you about, and no one has ever tried to put them all together. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, and that's the key, is you just try to take one thing at a time and see if it fits like a puzzle. But the mistake that I made, and a lot of other people, when I was really sick, when I was 28 actually, was I would just try this vitamin for this symptom. I wasn't really understanding what's behind anything. But anyway, I think let's go ahead and apply these, and then we can just maybe do another Skype later and just see how you do.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then anyone watching, if they wanted a really good alternative, kind of a pleasure food, if you like granola, I'll put a link down below of your site, because it's a really great product. And I think, especially for someone making the transition and they want something good, if you added like the almond milk to that, it would be the most incredible cereal, like for a child or yourself. Yeah.
I ate it this morning.
It's amazing. So I'll put a link down below for people to check it out. But so thanks for this interview, and I think hopefully some people will get some tips on it and maybe figure out their own body issues.
Thank you so much, Dr. Berg. You're amazing. Really appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. Okay, cool.
All right.
Awesome. All right, good. So we'll edit this and then we'll send it out.
Thank you so much. I'm just so overwhelmed with gratitude for you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. No problem.
All right, and I will. I'll email you, I guess, in a few months, once everything. I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. Give it a couple months, and then let's do another one and just see how you do.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. See ya.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.